Hello and welcome to the webinar today, how to discover the gold in your personal story. So we're talking about how to discover the power or the gold in your personal story. One of my favorite topics today. Really, really excited about this. One of the topics that have really transformed my life, my speaking business, and my coaching career. So let me run through with you, all right? Now, if at any time you've got any questions, you can simply drop your question in the box there. You can raise your hand, Sharkeen, or you can ask a question. Anyone else in the group, if you want to ask a question, simply just there's a question box right there at the bottom. Simply put your question in the box, and I'll get to you. All right. So here we go. How to discover the gold in your personal story. So first of all, a bit about myself. First of all, here's the program for our webinar today about myself. I'll explain who this is for. I'll explain why your story is so powerful. And then we're going to have a live coaching session where I give somebody a chance to actually come on the call and I'll coach you, for everyone else to hear as well, I'll coach you how to actually discover your own personal story and the power in your own personal story as well. At the end, I've got a special offer for you. So stay tuned to the very end so you can get access to that very special offer. Okay, about me, first of all. Cool. My name's obviously Errol Lawson. I'm an author. I've written two books. My first book is called From the Postcode to the Globe, How to Overcome Limitations and Realize Your Potential. I share my personal story in that book. My second book is called Teenpreneur, How to Build a Business in Your Teens. I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship, really passionate about young people. And that book is written for every young person out there who wants to start their own business. They haven't got to wait till they're old and wrinkly. They can do that right now. And Teenpreneur helps them to do that. And both of those books are available on Amazon right there. So if you're interested in those, that's where they are. I also run a podcast called the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. It's a podcast on which I interview different leaders from all around the world, and I ask them about their leadership journeys and lessons learned along the way. And it's just a really, really inspirational podcast. You can hear that on iTunes and on Stitcher if you're on an Android phone, or you can go to my website, www.errollawson.com, and you can listen to the podcast directly from there. In 2014, I'm going through this very quickly, by the way, just to give you a sense of credibility, if you like, for me be able to explain what I'm about to explain or teach you about storytelling. In 2014, I was awarded the Local Hero Award for my contribution to the community in Birmingham and the UK. I was a really, really kind of surprised in a way to receive that, and really honored to receive that. Last year, I was voted Young Male Entrepreneur of the Year at the Bex Live National event here at the Metropole in the West Midlands, which was cool. The following year, this year, I've been made a finalist in the Birmingham Young Professional of the Year competition, which is soon to be decided. So I'm really, really chuffed about that. That one's a big one, sponsored by Santander and some of the big corporates here in the UK. My company is called Emerge Leadership. We're based here in the UK, also in Ghana. And it's through Emerge Leadership where I actually do a lot of speaking, coaching, mentoring. I'm in literally at least 50 schools a year where we do motivational talks, assemblies. And those of you who are speakers that are listening will understand that speaking to young people is the toughest crowd you're going to get, right? So I do that for a living pretty much. I speak to young people all across the country and in Ghana as well, inspiring them, empowering them, motivating them to be the best that they can be. So that's my darling wife right there, Kenny. She's my baby, man. And really, really blessed to have been married now for a little while and just really excited about spending our future together. And she inspires me to do things like this that we're about to do. All right, then. So who's this webinar for? Who's it for? Right. Well, this webinar is for anybody who literally, if you're a speaker, you're a coach, you're an author, you're somebody with a desire to share your story or to be able to tell stories from stage that are compelling, that are moving, that are going to get people to move from where they are to where you want them to be or where they need to be or where they can or should be even. Stories are the most crucial tool, I'm telling you. So this webinar is for anybody. You could be a coach, a consultant, a speaker, a teacher, a parent even, who wants to understand how to tell personal stories that really compel people, engage people, and get them interested in what it is you have to say, all right? If that's you, you're in the right place today. I hope you get loads of value from this. I'm going to be pouring out value bombs for the next kind of 30 minutes or so. So get ready, get a pen and paper at hand. We're going to try and help you as best as we can to really understand the power and the gold in your personal story. All right, so here we go. The power of story. Let me share one story with you. When I was 19 years old, I was standing in front of a judge in the court of law, and the judge was sentencing me. And he said, Mr. Lawson, 100 hours community service. That would mean that every Friday I'd have to go to a park here in Birmingham where I'll go to the probation office and get in a white van and go to a park called Sutton Park in Birmingham every single Friday. And we'd literally have to be there until our hours are complete, 8 hours a week on a Friday, and literally just dig all day, dig, moving dirt all day long. That was our punishment, hard labor. And one Friday, I arrived at this probation office and expecting to get on the bus as usual, but my probation officer, a man named Ransford Clarkson, came over to me and two other guys that were there at the time who I was kind of hanging around with and said to us, he said, hey lads, we're going somewhere else today, get in my car. We're like, get in your car? We don't get in your car. That's not normal. That's not protocol. He says, yeah, get in my car. We're going somewhere else today. So we're like, all right, fair enough. All right, we obliged. And we got into his car and he took us to a place over on the other side of Handsworth called Law, Leisure and Learning. It was an old building across the road from Holyhead School here in Birmingham. It's an old kind of factory looking building, like a warehouse, if you like, derelict at the time. And he dropped us off there and we're standing outside. And apparently it's our job now to clean this building out. So we're standing there and smoking our spliffs at a time and waiting for someone to come along and give us some kind of instruction when the car pulls up. And I remember it like yesterday, an old kind of dirty, rusty Peugeot 405, I think it was. And out of this car bursts an old Irish guy. And this guy literally bursts out the car with his Irish passion. He's like, right then, what are you lads up to? What are you up to? What are you doing here? What are you guys up to? And we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're just here to do our time, mate, to do our hours. And he's like, right then, well, listen, this man's name was John. John sadly died a few years ago, but this man named John eventually, long story short, ended up fathering me. John was like, I want to start a football team from this building. I'll give you the kit. I'll give you the minibus. I'll pay for your league fees. I'll give you the nets. I'll give you whatever you need. If any of you lads play football, are you interested in football? And we look at each other like, football? It's a football team. Nah, that's a long thing, mate. Allow that. Forget that. Forget that. So we went back and started doing our work. But for some reason, at the end of the day, I went back to this guy called John. And I asked him, I said, John, tell me more about this football team. He says, yes, kidder, I'll give you the league fees, I'll give you the minibus, I'll give you the nets, I'll give you whatever you need to start a team from this building. I was 19 years old and nothing else to do with my time, so I kind of said, go on then, I'll have a go. I love football. Ended up starting this team. The team was called Centre Recess Football Club. And the players were all players from the local gang in the area that I was a part of at the time. And it was an absolutely crazy experience. We were like the crazy gang, literally. We had fights against our own players, fights with other teams. It was absolutely mental. It was my first ever leadership experience. Now, the team didn't last very long because, we were the crazy gang and we were fighting and all sorts. Some games had 7 players, 8 players. But I stayed with this guy called John. And John taught me a lot of things. But John somehow saw something in me. He believed in me. He saw something in me that I didn't see myself. He said, Errol, you're going places, kidder. He said, Errol, there's something different about you, kidder. You can go far, you can, kidder. You're different than the kids that are around here. There's something about you, Errol. And he believed in me and he encouraged me. And with his help, I ended up starting my first business around age 20, 21. And my business took off. And hey, that was my first time, but the rest from then is history. But I never forget that I learned through John the power and the difference that one person can make in the life of somebody else. When I experienced that relationship with John, that time with John, something in me shifted. No one else anywhere believed in me like John did. And I understood from this that if I had the power in the same way to believe in others, to believe in young people, to believe in those that others have given up on, to believe in those who see no hope for themselves, and their lives can be transformed. And so now I go around the country and around different parts of the world telling stories, believing that in the same way that John helped me to turn my life around, I can do the same for anybody else out there. Now, that's a personal story. It's my story, right? Now, every single one of us, I just want to share an example with you of what a personal story can be. Now, every single one of us has a personal story. These are stories that I share with young people, with adults, whenever I'm speaking from a stage, various stories like these. But every single one of us has these stories. And it's when we understand the value and the power in these stories, we begin to really impact people and transform lives. So here's just to break it down for you a little bit more, the power in your personal story, all right? Stories tell you everything about the storyteller. Literally, in that story, when you're hearing me communicate my story just now, you're hearing everything about me. You're hearing my values. You're hearing my passions. You're hearing my faith, almost my ability to take risks. You're discovering something about who I am just by hearing the story that I've shared with you. In the same way, your stories connect you with your audience in a way that facts and details cannot do. In your story, you reveal who you are, who you really are. Because when you tell your story, you cannot but be vulnerable. You cannot but be open about who you really are, because there's emotion in your story, there's feeling in your story, there's heart and there's passion in your story. So your story is naturally going to reveal to your audience who you really are. It takes the barriers down. Your story, your personal story, guys, your personal stories, plural, are the one thing that distinguish you from everyone else in a crowded marketplace where there are other consultants, other coaches, other speakers, other entrepreneurs. The thing that's going to distinguish you most of all is your personal story. And I know most people that are maybe listening right now, or most people who are in business, very rarely think about even going as far as sharing some of their own personal stories. But I want to suggest to you today, guys, if you've not begun to share your personal stories with your customers, with your clients, with your beneficiaries, then you're sitting on not just a gold mine of in terms of cash and money, but of value and of insight and of wisdom that you can share with people. Your story will distinguish you from the crowd. Today we don't buy products, we buy the story attached to the product. That's what makes the world work today, guys. It's not just the facts and the information. There are so many examples. Just a few weeks ago, we heard Elon Musk, who's the founder of Tesla. He did a launch event where he talked about his new Tesla Model 3, which has now sold $15 billion worth of vehicles, and the car isn't even released until next December. But he's got a back order of $15 billion, billion dollars, guys. And all he did from stage, pretty much in his launch event, is told a story about why CO2 is polluting the atmosphere and the impact it has on our environment and the danger of carbon poisoning and the impact. And he began to tell the story of the danger, and then began to tell us how his electric car is part of the solution to reducing these toxic gases in our atmosphere. But it was a story, and his story attached to the car, attached to the product, that makes us want to buy it. The same with Steve Jobs and iPhone. It was a story. A story in any industry, you'll find that, for example, somebody today can sell eggs down the road for, like, I don't know, 15 pence for 6 eggs, right? Whereas someone else up the road is selling the same eggs for £1.50. Why? Because they've told a story about those eggs. But they were from chickens on farms in the Highland of Scotland with the finest green grass and the purest air. They've given you a story around the product that makes you want to buy it. Stories are what make the difference, guys. And we have to understand that it's in our personal story where there's value. And the key is this: you got to look inside yourself for your story. Yes, of course, you can tell other people's stories, but there's something about your personal story that engages your audience, that sets you apart, that distinguishes you from everybody else in the crowd, doing what you're doing, offering what you're offering. And it helps people to decide whether they want to work with you or not, whether they want to buy from you or not, whether they want to use your services or not. Just your story helps them to know very clearly whether you are what they are looking for, whether you have the experiences, the insight, the knowledge, the wisdom to be able to really be the person that they want to connect with. You're making their decision easy, and you're also making your own choice easier at the same time, because you're choosing by their response whether actually they're the right client for you. All right. So your story is absolutely crucial. All right. Three critical steps. All right. I'm going to give you three critical steps. Then we're going to go into a live coaching session. We're going to ask one of you just to raise your hand. I'm going to drop you into the call. And then once you're in the call, we're going to do literally just do a quick coaching session with you to help you discover what your personal story is. All right. Here we go. So three critical steps. Number one, you have to be personal with your story. The more personal, the more universal it becomes, all right? So when you share a real story, one that is, when you're on stage, you're speaking to young people, you're speaking to adults, whoever you're speaking to, try and make your story as personal as you possibly can. The more personal it is, the more universal it becomes. So, for example, when I say John in my story earlier, when I mentioned John and how John inspired me and how John fathered me and he believed in me, you think of your own John, the John in your life or the John in a friend's life or John that you can relate to, a person in your life that inspired you, helped you to turn your life around, helped you to make for a big turning point in your life, in your journey. And the more personal your story is, the more people are able to find themselves inside your story. It's the most generous thing you can do. When you tell that personal story, immediately someone in that audience, in that crowd, they get it. They come inside. They become a part of what you're saying. They can relate to it. They know this person is real. They know what they're talking about. You're helping them to see not only where they were at or where they are at right now, but also how they can come out of that and move forward. It's a really, really powerful thing to do. So you gotta be really personal with your story. Second thing is your physicality is vital, or your body language is vital. A man named John Louis Rodriguez, a performance coach and trainer, and he basically if you check him out on YouTube, he helps people to be able to communicate effectively. He works with actors and theater artists and performers and speakers, and helps them to communicate effectively. And what's amazing is that what John Louis Rodriguez did is he went to Africa, and there's a tribe called the Nuba tribe, I believe it's called the Nuba tribe, and he went and observed them because he heard that these guys, they live among lions, yet the lions they don't eat them. The lions literally, they live alongside them, but the lions have such a respect for these people, they don't attack these people. And so he heard this, and he went to spend some time with them and find out how it was possible that these guys will walk among the lions so powerfully, so confidently, and the lions would have to respect them, and the lions wouldn't go near them and it wouldn't attack them because of their posture, their presence, the way they carry themselves. And he said, how is it possible? And he asked one of the chiefs, he said, Chief, hey, is it true that the lions have never eaten any of your people? And the chief said, oh, no, 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 of course, no, there have been times when lions have eaten some of our men. And he said, oh, so what happened? Why was it that they got eaten in those circumstances? And he said, the men had been drinking. The men had been drinking. They were drunk. It's powerful. They were drunk and they were not themselves. They were not in the right frame of mind, right state of mind. And when the lions saw them, they saw a prey. They saw someone that was no longer a predator. As humans, we are predators, right? They saw someone who was no longer a predator, but now a prey because they weren't in the right state. Their body language, their state of mind wasn't right. The lions sensed that and they pounced on that. There's a powerful lesson here, guys. When you're speaking from stage, your audience, literally, you are that guy in the tribe, and your audience is that lion. And you got to make up your mind to be in that powerful place where you know that you're going to be on form. You got your presence, your power, your confidence. You know who you are. Your posture, your body language speaks more than your words do. People are reading your physicality, your body language. When you're on stage telling your story, your story and your physicality have to come together and be one. You got to present yourself and convey yourself, get all of your emotion and your energy inside of your story. I'm telling you, when you're in that place, when you're in your zone, your people cannot but look at you. They cannot but keep their eyes on you and be glued to what you're saying. You've got to get your physicality right. You don't want to be drunk when you're out there. You want to be present. You want to be sober. You want to be vigilant. You want to be focused and get your physicality in line with your story, your energy, and your emotions. It makes all the difference. In fact, the FBI came and they asked John Louis Rodriguez, they said, hey, that we've got a lot of our special forces guys out in the Middle East who are kind of undercover are being killed. A lot of them being killed. And he says, why? He says, because for some reason they're getting found out really quickly. Can you come and help us? And so they went and spent time with the FBI to help them out. And basically, what they found out was that these guys, they were amongst the people, amongst the militants in the Middle East, but they didn't have the confidence. They weren't carrying themselves. They made themselves easy prey because of their physicality, their mindset. So he went through and trained them and got them to get thinking right, thinking correctly about that physicality, body language, posture, mindset. Guys, it makes all the difference to not only how you tell your story, but to how your story is received by your audience. Number three, generosity. So three critical steps, right? Generosity. Okay, so quick story for you. You know, when I do a lot of work in Ghana. Back in 2010, I went to Ghana for the first time, I think, or the second time, and we met a couple out there, well, a lady out there, Mrs. We call her Auntie Mary. She sadly passed away now, but Auntie Mary looked after the orphanage in a small village called Jakiti in Ghana, in the eastern region. And we were over there, and Mrs. Auntie Mary came and said to me one day, she said, Errol, hey, listen, I'm going to a funeral tomorrow. My dad has died. Keep us in your prayers. We said, sure. She's a lovely lady, sweet lady. And then the next day she came back to the village and she gave me the funeral program from her father's funeral. The man's name was Papa Dankwa. It was a gift for me. I thought, oh, this is interesting. Anyway, I opened the funeral program and it was a glossy magazine. And inside the magazine were hundreds of tributes, literally from family and friends and other leaders from across Ghana who this man had impacted in his 90 plus years. I read through, I was blown away by the testimonies and stories that people had written or taken time to write. Apparently, the people had fought over who was going to, they were arguing over who was going to carry this man's coffin. He was so revered, so popular. And I read that and I thought, wow, I want my life to count like this. I want my life to make this kind of difference, this kind of impact. When I leave the earth, I want people to literally be arguing over who carries my coffin. And guys, I want to say to you, when you're telling your stories, you got to come from that place of generosity, that place of openness and giving and just being willing to give whatever it takes to make a difference, to transform lives, to touch lives, to make an impact. You got to be willing to give whatever you've got, whatever's in you to make a lasting difference in the lives of your audience. You owe it to them. You got to be willing to be generous when you're up on that stage. It's all about generosity. So three critical steps there, right? Generosity, your physicality, and being personal with your story. I hope you're getting some value from this so far because what I want to do now is if anyone's willing, I want to do a little exercise with you where we actually tell a story, all right? Or get you guys to discover your personal story. Now, is there anybody that wants to volunteer to be our coaching person today? Person to be coached, if you're listening and you're up for it, and raise your hand for me. Raise your hand and we'll get you on the call. If you're listening and you want to be our coaching person, just raise your hand so I can see it. And the first person to raise their hand, we'll get you on. Don't be shy now. In fact, if I were you guys listening, I would have raised my hand a long time ago because this for me was with the key. I had a coach who helped me to discover what my personal story, the power in my personal story was a few years back. And I'm telling you, it changed my life. It changed my ministry. It changed my work with young people in schools, just taking off. I'm telling you, so much will happen when you get clear on this. All right, so who's going to be our first person? Okay, so we've got Sharkeen. Brilliant, Sharkeen. All right. Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm fine. Errol, can I just say my name's come up as Sharkeen, but it's Charlene.
Oh,
It's a spelling.
sorry.
My
Okay.
fault. It's my fault.
Okay. No worries.
I was talking to you actually just the other day at the call conference that you were at.
Yes.
So my story, I would say, would sort of start
Okay. Let me.
around.
Hang on, Charlie. I'm gonna take you through a process, right?
Okay.
To help you to get. I want everyone. Those of you who are listening, guys, I'm gonna ask Charlene a couple of questions now. I want you to have a pen and paper handy. I want you to answer also and the same questions, all right? So, first of all, Charlene, first question is tell me about your proudest achievement. Tell me about your proudest achievement, the proudest thing you've ever accomplished or achieved in your life. Go for it.
The proudest thing I would say that I've achieved is providing security for my twin children whilst a single mother.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. All right. Now, tell me about your saddest moment in your life.
That would be the passing of my auntie 16 years ago. She was like my older sister. I felt like I'd lost, if you like, my supporter. She supported me in absolutely everything, and she was a huge inspiration to me. So it was a tough time.
Mm. So, what were the key lessons that you learned from that experience with your aunt, do you think?
She taught me to follow my heart no matter what, regardless of what other people may think, although that's difficult at times.
It's good.
But it is something that I always sort of hold on to.
It's good. Follow your heart. Okay. Anything else? If you give me three like things that you think you learned from that experience with your aunt.
Resilience. I learned how to manage my emotions in terms of I turned to writing. Yeah, I'd say that those are sort of the main things, really.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And here's the thing, Charlene, right? This is a story that people want to hear. All right. This is a story that people they want to hear you share with them. They want to hear you take them on a journey on that story right there. And so, for example, right? So your aunt, and we could unpack it more. Tell me, okay, let me go a little bit further. Tell me about, you said resilience. Tell me
Yeah.
how resilience emerged for you as a lesson in that story.
I can link it into something else as well, to be honest. The main thing that she did for me, if you like, she was the excuse my voice, she was the linchpin between, or the hinge between myself and my absent father. So, and she remained objective throughout the whole process in terms of she was the one, the go-between, if you like. And I learned more from that and how she encouraged me to stay open and to judge for myself, not based on what people have told me, more than anything else.
Wow.
And so that's the biggest lesson.
Wow, 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 wow. That's powerful. And you mentioned about following your heart, and you said there about like you turned to writing. Tell us about that.
Whenever I'm feeling emotional, let's say, it's a bit of a natural thing. I tend to draw for pen and paper and I write. So I write my emotions down and it always sort of turns out oddly to be like a poem. And I've got quite a few that I could sort of piece together parts of my life.
Wow.
And I did start thinking about putting them together actually as a collection because they're all over the place.
Wow.
Because it's a case of drawing for pen and paper. They're not in a particular book.
Okay.
It's just that I need to put it on paper and then it feels like it's left me.
Okay. That's great. What's your aunt's name?
Annette.
Auntie Annette. Have you ever
Auntie
told, have you ever told that story about Auntie Annette like to an audience?
Because usually I get very emotional and even my sons are like, Mom, don't cry. But, you know, it's 16 years and I can still feel it because it's still very real because there is an absence. So it's still very real. So now I haven't told it to an audience outside of my family.
It's great. It's a powerful story. And I want to say, guys, to everyone that's listening as well, like this is just a great example of the type of story that transforms lives. Because the minute that Charlene, the minute you start talking from stage and say, "Hi, guys, today," let's say you've got three topics there for your talk, right? You could talk about resilience, following your heart, and turning your pain into value, or turning your pain into some kind of product or service, right? Or just as an art, like you've done with your poetry. And there's a story. Now, the slide you can see there, right, is the mountain, the guy looking at the mountain, right? You see that? See that slide, Charlene? It's a guy looking up a mountain, right? I'm not sure why you can't see that. Well, the thing is this, like people want you to take them up the mountain. Like no one ever tells a story, or no one ever watches a film from the end, right? You start a film or a story from the bottom side of the mountain, and they go through the ups and downs, the highs and the lows, and they end up at the top of the mountain. And what people want from your story is to hear you take them up to the top of that mountain. So in your case, it may be that you're starting from the bottom and someone's experienced a trauma, they've experienced loss, they've experienced some kind
Yeah.
of bereavement or some kind of setback in their life. However, any kind of setback. But you've gone through that and you've overcome it. You've climbed that mountain. You've climbed up and you can now teach them based on what you've learned from your personal story how they can do the same. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I want to encourage you. I really want to encourage you, to experiment with that. Anyone listening that you've been listening right now, you've got a personal story that comes to mind for you as well of a time in your life that maybe you've never spoken about, maybe you've never even thought about sharing about, guys. In that story is where your book is. In that story is where your keynote talk is. In that story is where your gold is. I'm telling you, my first book came out of a conversation like this, from the postcode to the globe, came out of a conversation with my coach, just like this, and realizing that I had three pillars. My three pillars are faith, responsibility, relationships, courage. Four pillars now, really, depending who
Yeah.
I'm talking to. And out of that, I've got books, I've got workshops, I've got programs, I've got so much that's come from discovering that my story, my personal story, is powerful. So I want to encourage you, Charlene, to play around with that and to look into that and to share that with people and really touch them and transform lives.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting because I've never thought of it like that. I'd always sort of thought if I had a story in terms of coaching and relating to young people, it was more around the absent father issue. Oh, I can see the picture now.
Ah,
Uh, around the absent father issue, and that's sort of my link to talking to young people, and I very much feel comfortable and confident in talking about that area,
yeah.
whereas I've never really thought about my auntie
Okay.
in that same way. So thank you.
No worries, man. No worries. No worries. All right. So I'm gonna mute you now, Charlene. If
Okay,
you got
thank
any
you.
questions after, there'll be a time to share. Thank you. Cool. All right. So, guys, we're almost done here, right? One rookie mistake I want to share with you. This is one of the most popular ones I come across. When people start creating marketing materials, websites, brochures, etc., without having figured out what their story or their unique distinction is. Big, big, big rookie mistake, all right? Guys, the thing to do first of all is to distinguish yourself by discovering what your story is, digging into that some more, and really kind of unpacking that and allowing that story, that unique distinction, to frame everything else you do. It will come through in your brochures, it will come through in your website, come through in your marketing material. But you've got to get your story unpacked first of all. Cool. All right. So I said at the start of the call, there'll be a special offer called the Getting Started Special Offer. And it's for those that are really serious about getting started as a school speaker, as a professional speaker. Guys, if you're really serious, you need to get a coach. I said earlier that I had a coach in my business, and he's my coach, a guy called Andy Ferguson. He helped me to get started all those years ago. And I'm offering, if you're really serious, I'm offering a 30-minute free coaching session for you to get started, to help you build some traction into your school speaking business or into your speaking business per se, generally. Free 30-minute, no obligation coaching session, all right? It's only for those that are genuinely serious about getting started. If that's you, and simply drop me an email right now with the subject heading, ready to get started. I will get a coaching call set up on Skype. My email address is errol@errollawson.com. If you're interested in that, simply drop me an email and we'll make that happen, all right? Guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you for listening today. God bless you. I hope that's been valuable for you today. Wish you all the best. Look out for our webinar next week on how to price your products, pricing, and how to package and price your products. Right, that's next week's webinar. Look out for that. Hope to see you then. Goodbye for now. God bless you. Bye.